The woman stumbled through the endless sea of grass, her fine Boston dress torn and stained, her throat so parched she could barely swallow, wondering if this golden prairie would become her grave. Zara Hollis had been traveling west with her aunt and uncle when their wagon train was attacked by bandits 3 days ago. In the chaos and gunfire, she had run blindly into the tall grass, away from the screams and the smell of gunpowder. When the silence finally came, she was alone. Completely, utterly alone. She had wandered ever since, trying to find her way back to the trail, but the prairie stretched endlessly in every direction. The sun beat down mercilessly, and her water had run out yesterday morning. She had grown up in Boston, the daughter of a wealthy banker who had died 6 months ago, leaving her orphaned at 22. Her Aunt Margaret and Uncle Thomas had convinced her to join them on their journey to California, promising fresh starts and new opportunities. Now she wondered if she would ever see another sunrise. The tall grass whispered around her as she walked, her steps growing more unsteady with each passing hour. The June sun of 1873 was unforgiving in the Kansas territory, and she had no hat, no water, nothing but her determination to survive. Her auburn hair hung loose around her shoulders, the pins lost somewhere in her desperate flight. Her green eyes, once bright with hope for the future, were now dull with exhaustion and fear. Just when she thought she might collapse right there among the prairie flowers, she heard it. The sound of a horse, its hooves rhythmic against the earth. She tried to call out, but her voice came as barely a whisper. She waved her arms weakly, praying whoever it was would see her. The rider appeared over a small rise, a tall figure on a chestnut mare. He pulled up short when he saw her, then urged his horse forward at a gallop. "Miss, can you hear me?" The voice was deep, concerned, with the slight drawl of someone who had spent his life under open skies. Zara tried to answer, but her legs gave out. Strong arms caught her before she hit the ground. "Easy now, I have got you," the man said, lowering her gently to sit in the grass. "When did you last have water?" She looked up at him through blurred vision. He was young, perhaps 26 or 27, with sun-bronzed skin and dark hair that curled slightly beneath his worn hat. His eyes were a striking blue-gray, filled with genuine worry. He wore the practical clothes of a working cowboy, dusty chaps over worn denim, a faded blue shirt, and a bandana around his neck. "Yesterday," she managed to croak out. "Morning." He immediately reached for his canteen and held it to her lips. "Slow sips now. Not too much at once or you will make yourself sick." The water was the most beautiful thing she had ever tasted. She wanted to gulp it down, but he pulled it back after a few swallows. I know," he said gently when she protested. "A bit more in a minute. First, tell me what happened." "Are you hurt?" "Bandits," she whispered. "Attacked our wagon train. I got lost." His jaw tightened. "How many days ago?" 3. "I think 3. He let her have another careful drink, then dampened his bandana and gently wiped her face. The cool water felt like heaven against her sunburned skin. "My name is Cole Lawson," he said. "I work for the Double R Ranch about 15 miles south of here. You are safe now. I am going to get you back to help." "Zara," she whispered. "Zara Hollis from Boston." "Well, Miss Hollis from Boston, you are one lucky lady. This prairie goes on for 100 miles in some directions. If I had not been checking on the northern boundary, I might never have spotted you." He helped her take another drink. "Do you think you can ride? I will hold you in the saddle." She nodded weakly. Standing was harder than she expected, and she would have fallen again if Cole had not steadied her with a firm grip on her elbow. He lifted her easily onto his mare, then swung up behind her, one arm secure around her waist. "Lean back against me," he instructed. "Rest. It is a long ride back, and you need to save your strength." Zara was too exhausted to protest. She let herself relax against his solid chest, feeling safer than she had in days. His heartbeat was steady and strong behind her, and despite everything, she felt her eyes growing heavy. "Stay awake if you can, Miss Hollis," Cole said, his voice close to her ear. "Talk to me. Tell me about Boston." "It is nothing like this," she murmured, forcing her eyes open to look at the vast prairie around them. Buildings everywhere, streets, crowds of people. "I have never seen so much open space in my life." "Must be quite a change," he said. "What brought you out west?" "My father died. Left debts I did not know about, lost the house, everything. My aunt and uncle invited me to come with them to California. They said there were opportunities there that I could start fresh." Her voice caught. "I do not even know if they are alive." His arm tightened slightly around her, protective. "Where was your wagon train headed?" "We were aiming for Victor in Colorado territory. My uncle said we could resupply there before heading over the mountains." "Victor is a good town," Cole said. "My boss, Robert Reynolds, does business there sometimes. You are on the right path. The Santa Fe Trail passes about 20 miles west of here." "I went the wrong direction," Zara said, feeling tears prick at her eyes. "I just ran. I was so scared." "You survived," Cole said firmly. "That is what matters. You kept going, you did not give up. That takes real strength, Miss Hollis." She did not feel strong. She felt like she had failed everyone. But there was something reassuring in Cole's confidence, in the steady way he guided his horse across the prairie. "Tell me about the ranch," she said, trying to focus on anything but her thirst and exhaustion. "The Double R. It is a good place." "Mr. Reynolds is fair, treats his workers right. We run about 3,000 head of cattle, have some of the best grazing land in Kansas. I have worked there for 5 years now, since I was 22 and drifted into the territory looking for work." "You like it there?" "I do. It is honest work, hard work. The land here gets into your blood after a while, all this space, this freedom. I tried going back east once to visit my sister in Missouri. Could not breathe right with all those trees closing in." He paused. "Here you can see for miles. See weather coming, see trouble coming. A man knows where he stands." Zara understood what he meant, even through her exhaustion. There was something about the endless sky, the rolling prairie, that called to something deep inside. Despite her terror and suffering, she felt it. "How much farther?" she asked. "About 2 hours at this pace. I am keeping it easy so as not to jostle you too much. You are doing fine, Miss Hollis. Just hold on." The sun was beginning its descent toward the western horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Cole kept up a steady stream of conversation, telling her about the ranch, about the men he worked with, about the small settlement that had grown up nearby to service the ranchers and farmers. "There is a doctor in the settlement," he said. "Doc Patterson. He is good, been practicing for 20 years. We will get you checked over, make sure you are all right." "I cannot pay," Zara admitted quietly. "I have nothing. My bag, my money, everything was in the wagon." "Do not worry about that now," Cole said. "We will sort it out. Mrs. Reynolds is a good woman. She will help you." As they rode, Zara found herself increasingly aware of Cole, not just his physical presence, though that was certainly notable. The strength in his arms, the way he held her carefully but securely. But more than that, there was a kindness in him, a genuine concern that went beyond simple duty. He could have simply pointed her in the right direction and given her his canteen. Instead, he had taken responsibility for her safety without hesitation. "Why were you out there?" she asked. "Checking boundaries, you said. We have had some trouble with cattle wandering off, maybe being rustled. Nothing certain yet, but Mr. Reynolds wanted me to ride the northern sections, see if I could spot anything unusual. Did not expect to find a lost lady from Boston." I am glad you did not expect someone else, Zara said softly. His arm tightened around her again just for a moment. So am I, Miss Hollis, so am I. As the sun sank lower, buildings finally appeared in the distance. Not many, just a handful of structures clustered together, but to Zara they looked like salvation. That is the settlement, Cole said. We call it Reynolds Station, though it is not officially named anything. The ranch itself is another mile past. He guided his mare toward the largest building, which announced itself with a hand-painted sign as Patterson Medical. Cole dismounted, then carefully lifted Zara down, steadying her when her legs wobbled. "Doc! Doc Patterson!" he called, helping Zara toward the door. An older man emerged, wiping his hands on a towel. He had gray hair and a neat beard, sharp eyes that took in Zara's condition immediately. "Found her lost on the prairie," Cole said. "No water for over a day, been wandering for 3 days since a bandit attack. Seems coherent but exhausted and burned." Bring her in, Doc Patterson said, ushering them inside. The office was simple but clean, with an examination table and shelves lined with bottles and medical supplies. "Set her here, Cole. Miss, can you tell me your name?" "Zara Hollis," she said. "Miss Hollis, I am going to examine you, make sure there is no serious damage. Cole, you can wait outside." "I would rather stay," Cole said, then seemed to realize how that sounded. "I mean, if Miss Hollis does not mind, in case you need help." Zara found she did not mind at all. In fact, she felt better with Cole there. "He can stay." The doctor examined her thoroughly, checking her sunburn, listening to her breathing, looking into her eyes and throat. He gave her more water, this time with something mixed in that tasted bitter but helped the ache in her throat. "You are dehydrated and exhausted, but you will recover," he pronounced finally. "The sunburn is painful but not severe. You need rest, fluids, and food. Slowly on the food, mind you. Your stomach will not take much at first." "She said her wagon train was attacked," Cole said. "She was heading to Victor." "I will send word out, see if there is any news," Doc Patterson said. "For now, Miss Hollis needs a place to stay in proper care. Cole, take her up to the main house. Margaret Reynolds will see her settled." Cole nodded. "Can she ride a bit more, if she must? But keep it slow and easy." Cole helped Zara back onto his horse, and they made their way toward a larger structure set back from the settlement. The ranch house was sprawling and welcoming, with a wide porch and warm light glowing from the windows. The sun was nearly gone now, stars beginning to prick through the darkening sky. Before they reached the house, a woman emerged, clearly having seen them coming. She was perhaps 50, with graying brown hair pinned up neatly and a practical dress covered by an apron. "Cole, what on earth?" "Mrs. Reynolds, this is Miss Zara Hollis. I found her lost on the northern prairie. Her wagon train was attacked by bandits 3 days ago." Margaret Reynolds hurried forward, her face full of concern. "You poor dear. Cole, get her down. Miss Hollis, you come right inside. Robert," she called toward the house. "Robert, come help." A tall, broad-shouldered man with graying hair appeared. Robert Reynolds had the look of someone who had spent his life working the land, weathered but strong. "What is this?" Margaret was already helping Zara toward the house, one arm around her waist. "Cole found her lost on the prairie. Go get the guest room ready while I get some broth into her." Inside, the ranch house was warm and comfortable, clearly a home rather than just a dwelling. Margaret settled Zara into a cushioned chair near the fireplace and began issuing orders. Robert disappeared to prepare a room, while Cole hovered nearby, looking reluctant to leave. "You did well, Cole," Margaret said, noticing, "but the girl needs rest now. You go get yourself some supper and tell the boys what happened. Someone should ride out and see if they can find any trace of her wagon train." "Yes, madam." Cole looked at Zara. You are in good hands now, Miss Hollis. Mrs. Reynolds will take care of you. Thank you, Zara said, her voice still hoarse. Thank you for saving my life. Something passed between them in that moment, an understanding that went beyond simple gratitude. Cole nodded, touched his hat, and left. Margaret brought warm broth and bread, making Zara eat slowly despite her hunger. She helped her wash and provided a clean nightdress, exclaiming over the state of Zara's Boston dress. We will see what can be salvaged, but you will need proper clothes, Margaret said. I have some things that might fit. We are about the same height, though you are slimmer. Tomorrow we will sort it out. Tonight you sleep. The guest room was simple but comfortable, with a real bed and clean sheets. Zara sank into it gratefully, her body finally able to rest. But before she drifted off, her last thoughts were of blue-gray eyes and strong arms holding her safe. She woke the next morning to sunlight streaming through curtains and the sound of voices outside. For a moment, she did not remember where she was, and panic surged through her. Then it all came back. The attack being lost, Cole finding her. Cole, there was a gentle knock on the door. Miss Hollis, are you awake? Margaret's voice. Yes, Zara called, sitting up. Her body ached and her skin felt tight where the sun had burned it, but she felt infinitely better than yesterday. Margaret entered with a tray. I brought breakfast, just eggs and toast, nothing heavy. How do you feel? Sore, but better. Good. Doc Patterson will want to check on you later. Meanwhile, I have some clothes for you to try. Your dress is beyond repair. I am afraid. The Prairie is not kind to fine fabrics. After eating and dressing in a simple calico dress that Margaret provided, Zara ventured out into the main house. Through the windows, she could see the ranch spread out around them. Corrals with horses, distant cattle dotting the range, men working. There is news, Margaret said, her face somber. Robert sent some men out last night to search for your wagon train. They found the site. Zara's heart clenched. And 3 wagons burned. They found 5 bodies, Miss Hollis. 3 men, 2 women. They did not have names, but from what you told Cole about your party, it seems likely your aunt and uncle were among them. I am so very sorry. The room seemed to tilt. Zara sat down hard, grief washing over her. She had known somewhere deep inside that they were probably gone. But knowing and having it confirmed were 2 different things. Margaret sat beside her, taking her hand. Let it out, dear. You have been so strong. Zara wept. For her aunt and uncle who had tried to give her a new start. For her father, dead these 6 months. For everything she had lost, everything that had been taken from her. Margaret held her, offering wordless comfort. When the tears finally subsided, Zara felt hollow but oddly clearer. What do I do now? She asked. I have nothing. No family, no money, nowhere to go. You stay here, Margaret said firmly. At least until you figure things out. We have room, and heaven knows I could use help around the house. Robert runs this ranch, but I run the household, and it is a lot for one person. If you are willing to work, you are welcome to stay. I could not impose like that. It is not imposing if you are working. Besides, you need time to heal, to grieve, to think. Where else would you go? Zara had no answer for that. The truth was, she had nowhere. No home, no family, no future that she could see. The offer was more generous than she had any right to expect. I am not used to ranch work, she admitted. I grew up with servants. I can sew and do needlework, manage a household, but cooking and practical things. I have much to learn. Then you will learn, Margaret said with a warm smile. I learned when I came here 30 years ago. I was not much older than you, fresh from Philadelphia, thinking I knew everything. This land teaches you quick enough. There was another knock at the door. Robert Reynolds entered, and with him was Cole. The cowboy looked freshly washed, his dark hair damp, wearing a clean shirt. His eyes went immediately to Zara, concern evident. "Miss Hollis," he said. "I am glad to see you up and about. I wanted to check on you." "I am better, thanks to you," Zara said. The sight of him made her feel steadier somehow. "Cole here volunteered to ride to Victor," Robert said. "See if your wagon train left word about their route if there might be someone looking for you. Someone should know what happened." "That is very kind," Zara said, looking at Cole. "But Victor is days away, is it not?" "3 days there, 3 back if I push it," Cole said. "But it is important. If you have people looking for you, they deserve to know you are safe, and we should report the bandit attack to the law." "There is a sheriff in Victor," Robert added. "Marshal Thompson. Good man. He will want to know about this." Zara nodded slowly. It made sense, but the thought of Cole being gone for 6 days made her stomach tighten with anxiety she did not quite understand. He had saved her life, yes, but it was more than that. In the short time since he had found her, she had felt safer with him than she had in months. "When will you leave?" she asked. "First light tomorrow. I need to pack supplies, get a fresh horse. Lightning is good, but I will need speed more than familiarity for this trip." The rest of the day passed in a strange haze for Zara. Margaret kept her busy, showing her around the house, explaining how things worked on a ranch. There was so much she had never considered. Where water came from, how food was preserved, the constant work required to keep everything running. It was overwhelming but also oddly grounding. Here, work had immediate purpose and visible results. Several times throughout the day, she saw Cole in the distance, going about his preparations. Each time, her eyes lingered on him longer than they should. She told herself it was natural, that he had saved her life, and she felt connected to him because of that. But there was something else, something in the way her heart lifted when she saw him, that spoke to deeper feelings beginning to form. That evening, Margaret invited Zara to join them for supper with the ranch hands. The dining room was large, with long tables where the men gathered after their day's work. There were about a dozen of them, ranging in age from young to grizzled. They were respectful but curious, sneaking glances at the newcomer. Cole sat across from her, and she found herself very aware of his presence. The way he laughed at another cowhand's joke, the easy camaraderie between him and the other men, the quiet competence that seemed to radiate from him. "So you are from Boston?" one of the younger ranch hands asked. His name was Tommy, and he could not have been more than 19. "What is it like there?" "Crowded," Zara said with a small smile. "Noisy, very different from this." "Do you miss it?" another asked. Zara considered. "I miss my father. I miss having a home, knowing where I belong. But the city itself? No, I do not think I do. There is something about the open sky here, the space. It is frightening but also freeing." "Well said, Miss Hollis," Robert Reynolds remarked from the head of the table. "That is exactly what this land is, frightening and freeing in equal measure." After supper, as the men dispersed to their evening routines, Cole approached her. "Would you take a walk with me, Miss Hollis? I leave early tomorrow, and I wanted to speak with you before I go." Zara's heart jumped. "Of course." They walked away from the house, toward a small rise that overlooked the ranch. The sun was setting again, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. The evening air was cool and sweet, carrying the scent of grass and wildflowers. "I wanted to make sure you understood," Cole said as they walked. "About Victor. I will do everything I can to find information about your people to report what happened. But if there is no one looking for you, if there is no one who knew you were coming, that does not mean you are alone." "I know," Zara said softly. "The Reynolds have been very kind. They are good people, but I mean more than that." Cole stopped walking, turning to face her. "I know we have only just met. I know this is probably forward of me, and maybe it is just because of the circumstances, but I want you to know that I care what happens to you, not just as someone I helped, but as yourself." Zara felt her breath catch. Cole, you do not have to say anything, he interrupted gently. I just wanted you to know before I leave that when I come back, I hope you will still be here. I hope you will give this place a chance. Give yourself time to heal and figure out what you want. And I hope, maybe, you might let me get to know you better. I would like that, Zara said, her voice barely above a whisper. Very much. He smiled, and it transformed his whole face, making him look younger, more open. Good, that is good. When I get back, maybe you will let me take you riding, show you more of the prairie. It is not just endless grass, you know. There are places of real beauty out here. I would like that too. They stood there in the fading light, neither quite wanting to end the moment. Finally, Cole said, I should let you get back. You still need rest, and I have an early start. Walking back to the house, Zara felt something she had not felt since before her father died. Hope. The possibility that maybe, despite everything, her life was not over but just beginning. The next morning, she woke early to see Cole off. She had not planned to, but sleep had been elusive, her thoughts full of blue-gray eyes and gentle hands. She dressed quickly in one of Margaret's borrowed dresses and hurried outside. Cole was in the yard, loading supplies onto a rangy bay horse. He looked up when she approached, surprise and pleasure crossing his face. Miss Hollis, you did not have to get up. I wanted to. She stopped a few feet away, suddenly shy. I wanted to wish you safe travels. Thank you. He secured the last of his gear, then walked over to her. I will be back before you know it. Try not to let Mrs. Reynolds work you too hard. I will be fine. You be careful. He reached out and gently squeezed her hand. His palm was calloused and warm, and the touch sent a shiver through her that had nothing to do with the cool morning air. I will, he promised. Then he mounted the bay, settled his hat, and with a final look back, rode out. Zara stood watching until he disappeared over the rise, already counting the days until his return. The 6 days of Cole's absence passed slowly for Zara, each one filled with work and learning and a growing sense of belonging that surprised her. Margaret was patient but thorough in her teaching, showing Zara everything from churning butter to mending clothes to managing the household accounts. You have a good head for numbers, Margaret observed one afternoon as they worked on the ledgers. Your father taught you well. He believed education was important, Zara said. Even for daughters. He made sure I could read, write, and do figures. My mother died when I was young, and he raised me himself until he remarried. My stepmother was less enthusiastic about my education, but by then the foundation was set. A wise man. These skills will serve you well, no matter where life takes you. At night, lying in her borrowed bed, Zara found her thoughts drifting to Cole. She wondered where he was, if he was safe, if he was thinking of her too. It seemed impossible that someone she had known for such a short time could occupy so much of her thoughts, but there it was. When she closed her eyes, she saw his face. When she woke, her first thought was how many days until his return. The other ranch hands were friendly and respectful, though none of them captured her attention the way Cole did. Tommy, the young one, was sweet and eager to help whenever she needed something heavy lifted or a task that required more strength. An older cowhand named Frank had worked on the ranch for 15 years and told wonderful stories about the early days, when hostile encounters with indigenous tribes were common and rustlers were an even bigger threat than they were now. Things have settled down considerable, Frank said one evening as they all sat on the porch after supper. Not saying it is paradise, but it is not the wild mess it was 10, 15 years ago. Towns are growing, law is getting established, a person can build something lasting now. Do you think it will keep changing? Zara asked. Will it eventually be as crowded as the East, maybe in time? Probably not in my lifetime, though. There is so much space here, Miss Hollis. more than you can imagine. You could walk for days and never see another soul if you went in the right direction. The thought should have been frightening, but instead Zara found it exhilarating. All that space, all that possibility. On the 5th day of Cole's absence, a rider arrived with mail and news. He was a rough-looking man who made supply runs between the ranch and various settlements, carrying letters and small packages. He had nothing for Zara, of course, but he brought news of a bandit gang that had been operating in the region. Marshal Thompson and Victor put out word, the rider told Robert Reynolds as Zara listened from the kitchen where she was helping Margaret with bread. Gang of 5 men been hitting wagon trains and small ranches. Mean bunch, killed at least a dozen people that they know of. Zara's hands stilled in the dough. 5 men, like the ones who had attacked her wagon train. They have any luck tracking them? Robert asked. Not yet. These boys are smart, keep moving, never hit the same area twice in a row. But with more people reporting, they will slip up eventually. Always do. After the rider left, Margaret found Zara standing at the window staring out at the prairie. Those were the men who killed my aunt and uncle, Zara said quietly. I am sure of it. Margaret put a gentle hand on her shoulder. Probably so, but the law is looking for them now. They will face justice. Will they? Out here it seems like bad men can disappear forever in all this space. Sometimes they do, Margaret admitted. But more often they get too confident, make a mistake, and men like Robert, like the marshal, like Cole, they do not give up. They will catch them. That night, Zara lay awake thinking about justice and revenge and the difference between them. She did not want to be consumed by hatred for the men who had destroyed her family, but she could not pretend she did not feel it. The anger was there, hot and hard in her chest, alongside the grief. The 6th day dawned clear and beautiful. Cole was due back any time, and Zara found herself unable to concentrate on anything. She kept finding excuses to be outside, to look toward the eastern horizon where he would appear. He might not make it back until tomorrow, Margaret said, not unkindly. 3 days there and 3 back was an estimate, not a promise. I know, Zara said, but she kept watching anyway. It was late afternoon when she finally spotted the rider. She recognized the bay horse first, then the tall figure in the saddle. Her heart leaped, and before she could think about it, she was running down from the house toward the yard. Cole saw her coming and urged his tired horse into a faster pace. He dismounted before the horse had fully stopped, and then Zara was there, and they were standing face to face, both slightly breathless. You are back, she said, which was obvious, but she could not think of anything more eloquent. I am back, he confirmed, and his smile was like the sun coming out. I have news, Miss Hollis. Can we talk? They walked away from the buildings, toward the same rise where they had stood before he left. Cole looked tired, dust-covered from hard travel, but his eyes were bright. I found records of your wagon train in Victor, he said. Your uncle had filed papers there, listed the members of the party. Marshal Thompson knew about the attack already, from other reports. He is organizing a posse to hunt the bandits down. The supply rider said they had been attacking people for months. They have. But they are getting bolder, which means they will get careless. The marshal thinks they can track them. He has good men. Cole paused. I am sorry, Miss Hollis, about your aunt and uncle. The marshal confirmed they were among the dead. They were buried there at the site. We marked the graves proper. Zara nodded, throat tight. Thank you for doing that. Was there anyone else? Anyone who survived? 2 men from the wagon train made it to Victor. They were scouts, out ahead when the attack happened. When they came back and saw what happened, they rode for help. They asked about you, said your aunt had mentioned a niece traveling with them. They will be relieved to know you survived. I want to write to them, Zara said. Thank them for caring enough to ask. The marshal has their names. I brought the information for you." Cole reached into his shirt pocket and pulled out a folded paper. "But there is something else. Your uncle had some money deposited with the bank in Victor. Not a fortune, but enough. It is yours now as his next of kin. The bank manager said you would need to come in person to claim it, bring proof of your identity." Zara stared at him, stunned. "Money? I had no idea. About $200. Like I said, not a fortune, but enough to give you choices. You could continue to California if you wanted, or go back east." Or he stopped, looking uncertain for the first time. "Or," she prompted softly, "or you could stay, build a life here." He took a breath. "I know it has only been a week. I know this is fast and probably foolish. But Zara, I have not been able to stop thinking about you. The whole ride to Victor and back, you were on my mind. The thought of coming back and finding you gone was worse than any hard travel or bad weather." Her heart was pounding so hard she thought he must be able to hear it. "I was counting the days," she admitted. "Watching for you. Margaret thought I was being silly, that it was too soon to feel anything real, but I could not help it." "Is it too soon?" Cole asked, stepping closer. "I do not know the rules for this sort of thing. I just know that when I found you on that prairie, when I thought you might die before I could get you help, something changed in me. And every moment since has only made it stronger." "I feel it too," Zara whispered. "I did not think I would ever feel anything again after losing my father, after losing everything. But then you were there, and you were kind and strong and good, and I started feeling hope again. Started feeling alive." Cole reached out and gently cupped her face with his hand, his thumb brushing her cheek. "I want to court you properly. I want to give you time to be sure, to heal, to figure out what you really want. But I need you to know that I am serious about this. About you." "I am sure," Zara said, leaning into his touch. "Maybe that is foolish, maybe I will regret saying it so soon, but I am sure. I want to stay. I want to see where this leads." "Thank God," Cole breathed, and then he was kissing her. It was gentle and sweet, a question and an answer both. Zara had been kissed before, awkward stolen moments at Boston parties with boys she barely knew. This was nothing like that. This was connection and promise and rightness. When they finally pulled apart, she was smiling through tears. "I am a mess," she said, laughing a little. "I cry all the time now." "You have earned the right," Cole said, brushing away her tears with his thumbs. "You have been through hell, Zara. You are allowed to feel everything." They stood there as the sun set, holding hands and talking about everything and nothing. Cole told her about Victor, about the people he had met, about the growing town that was trying to build civilization in the wilderness. Zara told him about her life in Boston, about her father and their close relationship, about the shock of losing everything. "I thought my life was over," she admitted. "When the creditors came, when I realized I would lose my home, my security, everything I knew, I felt like I was drowning. Coming west was supposed to be a new start, but I was terrified the whole way. Then the attack happened, and it seemed like proof that I was never meant to have anything good." "And now?" Cole asked. "Now I think maybe the universe was just pushing me toward where I was supposed to be, toward this place, toward you." She squeezed his hand. "Is that crazy?" "If it is, then we are both crazy, because that is exactly how I feel." Over the following weeks, Cole and Zara's relationship deepened in the way of people who had found something real. Cole courted her in the evenings after his work was done, taking her on walks, teaching her to ride properly, showing her the prairie he loved. Zara continued learning from Margaret, becoming more confident in the practical skills required for ranch life. The work was hard but satisfying. Zara discovered she enjoyed the directness of it, the way effort led directly to results. She learned to cook, to preserve food, to mend clothes until they were almost as good as new. Her hands, once soft and refined, developed calluses. Her skin, pale from Boston winters and society's preference for sheltered ladies, took on a healthy glow from hours in the sun. Cole was patient and respectful, never pushing for more than she was ready to give. They held hands. They stole kisses when they thought no one was watching. They talked for hours about their hopes and dreams. He told her about growing up on a small farm in Missouri, about losing his parents to fever, about drifting west because there was nothing left for him in the East. She told him about the suffocating expectations of Boston society, about feeling trapped in a life that was all appearances and no substance. "I was supposed to marry well," she said one evening as they sat on the porch, watching the stars emerge. "That was my job, according to my stepmother. Find a rich man, provide him with children and a well-run household, and never think beyond that. My father had other ideas, thank God. He wanted me to have choices. But after he died, the pressure was immense. Every social event was a hunting ground, every conversation with a man a potential proposal." "Did anyone propose?" Cole asked, trying to keep his voice casual. "One man. Frederick Sterling. He was wealthy, educated, from a good family, everything my stepmother wanted. He was also pompous, self-centered, and had no interest in me as a person. When I refused him, my stepmother was furious, said I was throwing away my only chance. Seems to me you made the right choice. I think so too, especially now." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "What about you? Was there anyone before?" "A few girls. Nothing serious. Ranch work does not leave much time for courting, and most women want more than a cowhand can provide. I figured I would probably stay single, maybe save up enough to buy a small piece of land someday, work it myself." He pressed a kiss to the top of her head. "Then I found you stumbling around the prairie, and suddenly my whole future looked different. Better or worse?" she teased. "Better, definitely better." 1 month after Cole had found her, Zara rode into Victor with him and the Reynolds to claim her inheritance and conduct other business. It was her first time seeing a real Western town, and she found it both exciting and slightly intimidating. Victor was larger than she expected, with a main street lined with shops and businesses. There was a hotel, a saloon, a general store, a bank, a church, and various other establishments. People moved along the wooden sidewalks, a mix of ranchers, merchants, cowboys, and settlers. Everything looked new and slightly unfinished, buildings still raw, would not yet weathered by time. At the bank, a somber man in a suit verified Zara's identity through a series of questions about her uncle and aunt, then handed over the funds her uncle had deposited. $215, more money than Zara had seen in one place since her father's death. "What will you do with it?" Margaret asked as they left the bank. "Save most of it," Zara said. "I have no immediate needs thanks to your generosity, but it is good to know it is there. To have something of my own again." They visited the general store next, where Margaret helped Zara purchase fabric for new dresses. Store-bought dresses were available, but Margaret insisted making them would be better practice and would result in better fit. "You are getting good with a needle," Margaret said. "By winter, you will be able to make anything you need." At the marshal's office, they learned that the bandit gang had been spotted heading south toward the Colorado border. Marshal Thompson was coordinating with authorities there to try to corner them. "We will get them," the marshal said confidently. He was a lean man with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. "Might take time, but we will get them." On the ride back to the ranch, Zara felt different. Lighter somehow. The money meant security, but more than that, claiming it meant officially closing the door on her old life and stepping fully into her new one. She was no longer Zara Hollis of Boston, orphaned daughter of a failed banker. She was Zara Hollis of Kansas Territory, a woman making her own way in the world. That evening, Cole asked her to take a walk with him. They headed toward their favorite spot, the rise overlooking the ranch. The summer air was warm and sweet, fireflies beginning to dance in the gathering dusk. "I have been thinking," Cole said as they walked, "about the future, about what I want." "And what do you want?" Zara asked, though her heart was already beating faster. "You, a life with you." He stopped and turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. "I know we have not known each other long, just over a month. But Zara, I am more certain of you than I have been of anything in my life. I love you. I want to marry you, build a life with you, wake up next to you every morning for the rest of my life." Zara felt tears spring to her eyes, but they were happy tears this time. "I love you too, so much it scares me sometimes." "Is that a yes?" Cole asked, smiling but also clearly nervous. "That is a yes. Yes, I will marry you. Yes to everything." He pulled her into his arms and kissed her deeply, and Zara felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. When they finally broke apart, both laughing and crying a little, Cole reached into his pocket. "I do not have a fancy ring yet," he said, "but I wanted to give you something." He pulled out a small object. It was a simple band he had clearly made himself, woven from braided horsehair. "I know it is not much, but until I can get you something proper, it is perfect," Zara interrupted, slipping it onto her finger. "Absolutely perfect." They sat on the rise until full dark, making plans and dreaming aloud. They would marry as soon as possible, Cole said. No need for a long engagement when they were both sure. They would live on the ranch initially, in the small cabin Cole currently shared with two other ranch hands. It would be cramped but temporary. Cole had been saving his wages, and with Zara's inheritance, they could eventually buy land of their own. "I want my own place," Cole said. "Not a huge ranch, nothing like what Mr. Reynolds has. But a few hundred acres, enough for a modest herd, a good house, room for a family. Someday." "How many children do you want?" Zara asked, imagining it. "I do not know. However many God sees fit to give us, I suppose. 2 or 3 would be nice. What about you?" "I always wanted a large family," Zara admitted. "Being an only child was lonely. I used to dream about having brothers and sisters, but I would be happy with whatever comes, as long as I have you." They told the Reynolds the next morning. Margaret cried and hugged them both, declaring she had known from the start they were meant for each other. Robert shook Cole's hand and offered his congratulations, then pulled him aside for what Cole later told Zara was a brief but intense conversation about treating her right. "He said if I ever made you cry for a bad reason, he would skin me alive and use my hide for saddle leather," Cole reported, looking amused but also touched. "I think he has adopted you as the daughter they never had." "They have been so kind to me," Zara said. "I do not know what I would have done without them. They see in you what I see: strength, kindness, grace. You fit here, Zara, like you were always meant to be part of this place." They set the wedding date for 3 weeks away, enough time to make basic preparations, but not so long that the waiting would be torture. Zara would make her own dress from the fabric she had bought in Victor, with Margaret's help. Cole would build furniture for their cabin during his off hours. The ceremony would be at the small church in Reynolds Station, with the ranch hands and local families in attendance. The days flew by in a flurry of preparation. Zara sewed her wedding dress by lamplight, simple but beautiful, white cotton with delicate embroidery at the collar and cuffs. Margaret helped her make a veil from lace she had been saving. Cole worked late into the nights constructing a bed frame, a table, chairs, everything they would need to set up their household. "You do not have to do all this yourself," Zara told him one evening, watching him sand a table leg with patient precision. We could buy furniture in Victor. I want to make it, Cole said. I want you to have things built by my own hands. Besides, it gives me something to do instead of just counting the days until you are my wife. How many days is it now? 8. 8 very long days. Zara laughed and kissed his cheek, earning a grin from him that made her heart flip. A week before the wedding, word came that the bandits had been caught. A posse had tracked them to a hideout in the Colorado mountains and taken them after a brief shootout. 2 of the bandits were killed, the other 3 captured and now awaiting trial. They will hang, the messenger reported. No doubt about it. They are wanted for multiple murders. Justice will be served. Zara expected to feel satisfaction or relief or something definitive. Instead, she just felt tired. The bandits' capture did not bring her aunt and uncle back. It did not undo the trauma of those days lost on the prairie. But it was closure of a sort, an ending to that chapter of her life. "Are you all right?" Cole asked later, finding her standing alone outside looking at the stars. "I am. I think I am finally letting it all go. The past, the anger, all of it. Those men will face justice and my aunt and uncle can rest in peace. As for me, I have a future to look forward to." "Our future," Cole corrected, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Our future," she agreed, leaning back against him. The wedding day dawned clear and bright, a perfect late summer morning. Zara woke early, too excited and nervous to sleep. Margaret helped her dress, fixing her hair and pinning the veil in place. "You look beautiful," Margaret said, tears in her eyes. "Like an angel." Zara looked at herself in the small mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Her face was fuller now, no longer gaunt from starvation and stress. Her skin glowed with health. But more than the physical changes, it was her eyes that were different. They shone with happiness and hope, so different from the dull fear that had filled them when Cole first found her. The church was small but packed with people. All the ranch hands were there, along with families from neighboring ranches and the settlement. Simple wildflowers decorated the altar, picked by some of the ranch children that morning. Cole stood at the front with Robert Reynolds as his best man, wearing new clothes he had bought specially for the occasion. His dark hair was neatly combed, his face freshly shaved. When Zara entered on Robert's arm, since there was no other man to give her away, Cole's face transformed with a smile so full of love it took her breath away. The ceremony was simple and heartfelt. The minister spoke about commitment and partnership, about building a life together through good times and bad. When it came time for the vows, Cole's voice was strong and clear. "I, Cole Lawson, take you, Zara Hollis, to be my wife. I promise to love you, protect you, and cherish you all the days of my life. I promise to work hard to give you the life you deserve. I promise to be faithful, honest, and true. From this day forward, you are my family, my home, my heart." Zara's voice shook with emotion as she made her own vows. "I, Zara Hollis, take you, Cole Lawson, to be my husband. I promise to love you with everything I am. I promise to stand by your side through whatever life brings. I promise to build a home with you, a life with you, a future with you. You found me when I was lost, and I will never stop being grateful for that day. From this moment on, my heart is yours." When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Cole kissed her with gentle reverence, as if she were something precious and breakable. The church erupted in applause and cheers. The celebration afterward was joyful and loud. Tables had been set up outside, laden with food the ranch families had prepared. There was dancing, music from a fiddle player, laughter and toasts. Zara danced with Cole, with Robert, with several of the ranch hands who were brave enough to ask. She laughed more than she had in months, her face hurting from smiling. As the sun began to set, Cole and Zara slipped away from the party. He had prepared their cabin while she was getting ready that morning, making it as welcoming as possible. Wildflowers filled every available container, candles provided soft light, and the bed was made with a new quilt Margaret had given them as a wedding gift. "Welcome home, Mrs. Lawson," Cole said, lifting her over the threshold. "Home," Zara repeated, liking the sound of it. "I never thought I would have a real home again." "You will always have a home, Zara, with me wherever we are. That is my promise to you." That night, they came together as husband and wife, tender and passionate by turns. Cole was gentle and patient, making sure Zara felt safe and cherished. For Zara, it was the final step in her transformation from lost girl to found woman, from alone to beloved. Afterward, lying in Cole's arms with her head on his chest, listening to his steady heartbeat, Zara thought about the journey that had brought her here. The losses, the fear, the desperation. And then the moment everything changed, when a cowboy on a chestnut mare appeared over a rise and saved her life. "What are you thinking?" Cole asked, running his fingers through her hair. "That I would not change anything. If I could go back and prevent the attack, save my aunt and uncle, I would, of course. But the path that brought me to you, I would not alter a single step. Even the part where you almost died of thirst on the prairie, even that, because it led to you finding me. To this moment right here." Cole kissed the top of her head. "I love you, Zara Lawson." "I love you too, Cole Lawson, more than I knew was possible." The first months of marriage were an adjustment. Living in the small cabin with Cole, learning to manage their household, figuring out how to share space and make decisions together. But they approached it with humor and patience, and the foundation of their love was strong enough to weather the small storms. Cole continued working for the Double R, saving his wages diligently. Zara helped Margaret at the main house, but also began taking in sewing work from other ranch families. Her Boston education served her well in unexpected ways. She could read and write better than most people in the area, and soon she was helping neighbors with letters and documents. Winter came, harsh and beautiful. Snow blanketed the prairie, and the work of the ranch shifted to maintaining animals and surviving the cold. Zara learned to appreciate the cozy evenings in their cabin, the warmth of the stove, the comfort of Cole's arms. By spring, Zara realized she was pregnant. She told Cole on a warm April evening as they sat watching the sunset, their nightly ritual. "I am with child," she said simply, taking his hand and placing it on her still flat belly. Cole stared at her, his face cycling through shock, joy, and wonder. "Truly, truly. Doc Patterson confirmed it yesterday. He thinks the baby will come in October." Cole let out a whoop of joy that probably carried all the way to the main house and pulled her into a careful embrace. "A baby, our baby. Zara, this is wonderful. Are you sure? We are still saving for our land. A baby will make things harder." "A baby will make things perfect," Cole corrected. "We will manage. We always do." The pregnancy progressed smoothly. Zara bloomed with health, her belly growing round. Cole fussed over her constantly, trying to prevent her from doing anything strenuous. It drove her crazy. "I am pregnant, not made of glass," she told him after he tried to stop her from hanging laundry. "Women have been doing this since the dawn of time while doing far more difficult work." "Let me take care of you," Cole protested. "It makes me feel useful. You are useful. You provide for us. You love me. You are going to be an amazing father. But I need to stay active and feel like myself. Please." They compromised, with Zara continuing most of her normal activities, but letting Cole take over the heavier tasks. As summer progressed and her belly grew larger, she was grateful for his help. In late October, on a crisp autumn morning, Zara went into labor. Margaret and Doc Patterson were there, along with two other women from the ranch. Cole paced outside the cabin, looking terrified. The labor was long and difficult. Zara had known childbirth would be painful, but nothing prepared her for the reality of it. Hours blurred together, pain and effort and Margaret's encouraging voice urging her on. Finally, as the sun was setting, a baby's cry filled the cabin. Doc Patterson held up a squirming, red-faced infant. "It is a boy," he announced. "A strong, healthy boy." Zara collapsed back against the pillows, exhausted but elated. They cleaned the baby and wrapped him in a soft blanket, then placed him in her arms. He was perfect. Tiny and wrinkled and perfect. Cole was allowed in then, and the look on his face when he saw his son made Zara cry all over again. He sat carefully on the edge of the bed, staring at the baby with wonder. "We made him," he said softly. "This perfect little person, we made him." "What should we name him?" Zara asked. They had discussed names but never quite decided. Looking at their son now, the name came to both of them simultaneously. "James," Zara said. "James," Cole agreed. "James Robert Lawson, after my father and Mr. Reynolds." "James Robert Lawson," Zara repeated, smiling down at her son. "Welcome to the world, little one." The first months with baby James were exhausting and wonderful. He was a good baby, healthy and relatively calm, but the constant demands of a newborn left both Cole and Zara sleep-deprived. Still, they would not have traded it for anything. Watching Cole with their son, seeing the gentle way he held James, the silly faces he made to get a smile, filled Zara's heart to overflowing. When James was 6 months old, Cole came home one evening with big news. "Mr. Reynolds wants to sell us land." Zara looked up from where she was mashing vegetables for James. "What? He is getting older, thinking about succession. He has no children, no one to leave the ranch to. He wants to divide some of the land off, sell parcels to the men who have worked for him longest. He offered me 400 acres on the northern boundary, the section I always patrolled. $200. Cole, that is incredibly generous, but do we have that much?" "We have 300 saved. I told him we would need time to save the rest, but he said we could pay it off over 2 years with no interest. Zara, we could have our own land, our own place." They discussed it long into the night. It was a risk, stretching their finances thin. But it was also an incredible opportunity. Land of their own, the chance to build something lasting. "Let us do it," Zara said finally. "I can take in more sewing, maybe start teaching children to read. We will find a way." Cole pulled her into his arms. "Have I told you lately that you are amazing?" "Not in the last few hours." "Well, you are. Amazing and brave, and I am the luckiest man alive." They bought the land and began the slow work of building their ranch. Cole constructed a new house, larger and sturdier than the cabin. Zara worked tirelessly, both caring for James and bringing in extra money however she could. She did indeed start teaching, and soon had a small group of ranch children coming by twice a week for lessons. The parents paid what they could, sometimes in cash, sometimes in goods or services. 2 years after buying the land, their ranch was a going concern. They had a modest herd, a good house, and another baby on the way. Their second child, a daughter they named Sarah Margaret, was born in the spring of 1876. She had Cole's dark hair and Zara's green eyes and a personality that announced itself immediately. Where James had been a calm baby, Sarah was fierce and demanding, but they loved her all the more for it. Life fell into a rhythm. The work was hard, the challenges constant, but they faced it all together. Cole expanded their herd slowly, learning from both success and failure. Zara balanced motherhood with running the household and her various income-generating activities. As their children grew, They helped with age-appropriate tasks, learning the value of hard work and contribution. In 1878, when James was 4 and Sarah was 2, Zara gave birth to twin boys. They named them Thomas Cole and William Henry, and the sudden expansion from 2 children to 4 was overwhelming. But Margaret was there to help, as were several of the ranch women Zara had become friends with over the years. It took a village, Zara often said, and she was grateful for hers. The twins were a handful, identical and mischievous. They spoke their own private language with each other and got into everything. Cole built them a small pen where they could play safely while Zara worked, but they figured out how to escape within a week. "They are definitely yours," Zara told Cole after finding the twins had somehow gotten into the barn and released all the chickens. "They have your intelligence," Cole countered, trying not to laugh at the chaos, "and your determination." Despite the challenges, or perhaps because of them, Zara had never been happier. This life was nothing like what she had imagined back in Boston. It was harder, more uncertain, sometimes lonely. But it was real and meaningful in ways her old life never had been. As the children grew, Zara made sure they all learned to read and write, to do figures, to think critically. Cole taught them about ranching, about respecting the land and the animals, about the value of honest work. Together, they tried to give their children roots and wings both. In 1882, nearly 10 years after Cole had found her lost on the prairie, Zara stood on the porch of their house watching the sunset. Their land stretched out before her, golden grass rippling in the breeze. Their cattle dotted the range. In the distance, she could see Cole riding in with James, now 8 years old and already a competent rider. Sarah was in the yard, bossing the 6-year-old twins around as they fed the chickens. Margaret Reynolds, now in her 60s, had become like a mother to Zara. She visited often, doting on the children and offering advice when asked. Robert had semi-retired, leaving much of the ranch operation to younger men, though he still consulted on major decisions. Zara heard footsteps behind her and felt Cole's arms come around her waist, his hands resting on her gently rounded belly. She was pregnant again, due in the late spring. Their 5th child, possibly their last, though they would see what God had in store. "What are you thinking about?" Cole asked, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Everything. How far we have come, how different my life is from what I imagined. Good different or bad different, the best different. I think about that girl lost on the prairie sometimes, how scared she was, how certain she was going to die. And then you appeared, like something out of a story, and everything changed. I think about it too, how close I came to not finding you. If I had ridden a different section that day, if I had turned back an hour earlier, you would have died, and I would never have known you existed. But you did find me. You guided me home, literally and figuratively. You gave me a life I did not know I could have." Cole turned her gently to face him. After 10 years of marriage, he still looked at her like she was the most precious thing in his world. His face had weathered with time and work, lines forming around his eyes from squinting into the sun. But to Zara, he was more handsome now than the day they met. "You gave me just as much," he said. "Purpose, family, love. Before you, I was just drifting. Working, saving, but without any real direction. You gave me something to work for, to build for. You made me better." "We made each other better," Zara said, standing on tiptoe to kiss him. "That is what love does." That evening, after the children were in bed, Zara and Cole sat on their porch as they did most nights, enjoying the quiet and each other's company. The stars were brilliant, scattered across the black velvet sky like diamonds. "You ever miss Boston?" Cole asked. It was a question he had asked periodically over the years, and her answer was always the same. "No, I miss my father sometimes, miss what we had before he died. But the city itself, that life, never, this is where I belong. Even with all the hardships, the isolation, the hard work. Especially because of those things, I'm not saying it is easy, but it is real. What I do matters. Who I am matters. I am not just decorative or a means to an end. I am a partner, a mother, a teacher, a rancher. I am myself, fully and completely. Cole squeezed her hand. I am glad you feel that way, because I cannot imagine doing this without you. You will never have to. I am here, Cole, for all of it. The good, the bad, the uncertain. Whatever comes, we face it together. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars wheel slowly overhead. In the distance, a coyote howled, and one of the horses whinnied softly in response. The sounds of their land, their life. Their fifth child, another daughter named Emily Grace, was born in May of 1883. The birth was easier than the previous ones, and Emily was a sweet, calm baby who seemed content to simply observe the chaos of her busy household. With 5 children, life was hectic. The house rang with laughter and arguments and the constant motion of young lives. Zara sometimes felt like she was juggling a dozen things at once, never quite catching up. But she would not have changed it. James, at 9, was already a help with the ranch work. He had his father's steady nature and competence, a boy who could be trusted with real responsibility. Sarah, at 7, was fierce and independent, more interested in riding and roping than anything domestic. The twins were still wild and mischievous at 6, but beginning to settle slightly into their personalities. Thomas was the dreamer, often found staring at clouds or watching birds. William was the practical one, always building or fixing something. And now Emily, sweet and peaceful, the baby of the family. Cole expanded their operation slowly but steadily. They would never have a ranch the size of the Double R, but they were doing well, comfortable, if not wealthy. Their children would have opportunities, choices that both Cole and Zara had lacked in their own childhoods. In 1885, Zara started a small school in Reynolds Station. The settlement had grown considerably, now home to about 50 families, and the children needed more than just occasional lessons. With Emily now 2 and the older children able to help watch her, Zara had time to take on the project. The school was a simple building, one room with benches and a wood stove. But to Zara, it represented something important. Education, opportunity, the future. She taught children of all ages, from barely reading 5-year-olds to teenagers who worked ranches during the day and came to her in the evenings to learn. Cole was proud of her work, often telling anyone who would listen about his wife, the teacher. "She is changing lives," he would say, "giving these children tools they will use forever." For Zara, teaching was deeply fulfilling. She saw herself in some of these children, especially the girls who dreamed of more than what their circumstances suggested was possible. She tried to encourage them, to show them that determination and education could open doors. The years passed, marked by the rhythms of ranch life. Calving season, branding, drives to market, planting gardens, preserving food, preparing for winter. Birthdays and holidays, injuries and illnesses, triumphs and setbacks. Through it all, Cole and Zara's partnership remained strong, weathering every storm because they faced it together. In 1890, 17 years after Cole had found Zara lost on the prairie, they stood together at Sarah's wedding. Their fierce daughter, now 15, was marrying a neighboring rancher's son, a good young man who clearly adored her. It was a reminder that time was passing, that the children they had raised were becoming adults with lives of their own. How did we get old enough to have a married daughter? Cole murmured to Zara as they watched Sarah dance with her new husband. "Speak for yourself. I am still quite young, Zara teased. At 39, with silver threading through her auburn hair and fine lines around her eyes, she felt nothing like the frightened girl who had stumbled through the prairie grass. She was stronger now, more certain, deeply content with the life she had built. James, at 16, was increasingly talking about wanting his own land someday. Cole had promised to help him when the time came, perhaps buying an adjacent parcel if one became available. The twins, now 14, were still inseparable but developing distinct interests. Thomas wanted to study plants and had started documenting the prairie flora. William wanted to build things, already constructing impressive projects in the barn. Emily, at 7, was showing signs of inheriting both Zara's love of learning and Cole's calm competence. She helped Zara at the school sometimes, naturally patient with the younger children. As Zara watched her children, her grandchild on the way since Sarah was already expecting, her husband still handsome and strong beside her, she felt overwhelming gratitude. Her life could have ended on that prairie, should have probably. But instead a cowboy had appeared over a rise and everything had changed. "What are you thinking?" Cole asked, noticing her expression. "That I love you, that I am grateful, that every day with you is a gift, even the hard days." Cole asked with a smile, "Especially the hard days. Those are the ones that prove what we have is real." She took his hand. "Come dance with me, Mr. Lawson." "I am not much of a dancer, Mrs. Lawson. I know, but dance with me anyway." They moved onto the makeshift dance floor, Cole's arms around her waist, swaying more than really dancing. Around them, their community celebrated. These people were not just neighbors but family, bound together by shared hardships and joys. The music played on, the stars came out, and Zara Lawson danced with her husband, secure in the knowledge that she was exactly where she belonged. Years continued to pass, bringing both changes and constants. James did indeed buy his own land and started his own ranch, just 3 miles from Cole and Zara's property. He married a sweet girl from Victor and made Cole and Zara grandparents twice over before Sarah's children were even born. Sarah and her husband worked their ranch successfully, eventually having 4 children of their own. True to her nature, Sarah was as fierce a mother as she had been a daughter, raising her children with love and discipline in equal measure. The twins both chose different paths. Thomas went east to study at an agricultural college, returning with new ideas about crop rotation and soil management that he applied to the family ranch. William became a builder, constructing homes and barns throughout the region, always in demand for his skill and reliability. Emily surprised everyone by wanting to become a doctor. It was an unusual ambition for a woman in the 1890s, but Zara encouraged her daughter to pursue the dream. With support from both parents, Emily headed to medical school in Denver, determined to return and serve the ranching communities that needed doctors desperately. Cole and Zara's ranch continued to prosper. They had become respected members of the community, the couple who had started with nothing but determination and built something lasting. Young people starting out often came to them for advice, and Cole in particular was known for his fairness and wisdom. Robert Reynolds passed away peacefully in 1895, leaving the double R to be divided among his long-time employees. Margaret followed him 2 years later. Their deaths hit Cole and Zara hard. These people had been more than employers or friends. They had been family when Zara had none, mentors when both she and Cole needed guidance, but life continued, as it always does. Grandchildren arrived regularly, filling Cole and Zara's house with noise and joy whenever they visited. The older children took on more responsibility with the ranch, eventually running much of the day-to-day operation as Cole eased into semi-retirement. In 1903, 30 years after that fateful day on the prairie, Cole and Zara celebrated their 30th wedding anniversary. All 5 children came home for the occasion, bringing spouses and children. The house was chaos, filled with multiple generations all trying to fit under one roof. Cole stood on his porch, now gray-haired and weathered but still strong, watching his family. Grandchildren ran shrieking through the yard. His children argued good-naturedly about something trivial. Zara emerged from the house, her auburn hair now mostly silver, glasses perched on her nose, still beautiful to him after all these years, regretting inviting everyone. She asked, slipping her hand into his, "Not for a second. This is everything I ever wanted, everything we built together. It is amazing, isn't it, to think it all started because you happened to ride north that day. Best decision I ever made, checking those northern boundaries." Zara laughed. "You make it sound like a choice. You were just doing your job. Maybe. But staying with you, fighting for us, building this life, that was all choice. And I would make the same choice 1,000 times over." That evening, after a massive dinner that required multiple tables, the family gathered to hear Cole and Zara's story. The grandchildren, especially, were fascinated by the tale of how their grandparents met. "Tell us about finding Grandma," one of Sarah's daughters begged. Cole looked at Zara, who nodded. They had told the story before, but it never got old. Cole cleared his throat and began. "It was June of 1873. I was 27 years old, working for the Double R Ranch, when Mr. Reynolds sent me to check the northern boundary. It was hot, I remember, and I was not expecting to find anything unusual, just another day of work. Then I saw movement in the grass," he continued. "At first I thought it might be an antelope or a calf that had wandered off, but as I got closer I realized it was a person. A woman, stumbling through the prairie like she was drunk. I rode up fast, and when I got to her, she collapsed right into my arms. I was half dead," Zara added. "No water for a full day, lost for 3 days before that. If Cole had been even an hour later, I would not have made it." "What did Grandpa do?" one of the twins' sons asked. "He gave me water, slowly so I would not get sick. He wiped my face with a cool cloth. He asked me gentle questions to understand what happened. Then he put me on his horse and took me to safety." Zara smiled at Cole. "He saved my life, simple as that." "And then you fell in love?" Sarah's oldest wanted to know. "Not instantly," Cole said with a laugh. "Your grandmother was exhausted and traumatized. I was just trying to help. But over the next few weeks, as she recovered and I got to know her. Yes, then I fell in love, hard and fast and forever." "It was the same for me," Zara said softly. "He was kind and strong and good. He made me feel safe when my whole world had fallen apart. How could I not love him?" "Best day of my life, finding you lost on that prairie," Cole said, his voice thick with emotion even after 30 years. "Because it meant I got to spend the rest of my life with you." The grandchildren made gagging noises at the sentimentality, but the adults in the room exchanged glances, several with tears in their eyes. This was what they all wanted, what Cole and Zara represented. A love that lasted, that weathered storms, that grew deeper with time. The party continued late into the night. There was music and dancing, stories and laughter. As the stars came out bright and clear over the Kansas prairie, Cole and Zara slipped away to their favorite spot, the rise overlooking their land. 30 years, Cole said, pulling her close. 30 years since I made you my wife. It has gone fast. And slow in the best way, Zara said. So much life lived, so many moments, every single one of them precious. They stood there in comfortable silence, looking at the land they had worked, the home they had built, the family they had created. The prairie grass whispered around them, the same sound that had surrounded them that first day, but everything else had changed. "You know what I think," Zara said after a while. "I think getting lost on that prairie was the best thing that ever happened to me. Before that day, I was just existing, going through the motions, letting life happen to me. But that experience and you finding me, it woke me up. Made me realize how precious life is, how important it is to really live." "You have lived beautifully," Cole said. "You have been an amazing wife, mother, teacher, friend. You have touched so many lives, made such a difference. We have done it together. That is what makes it beautiful." As they walked back to the house, arms around each other, they passed under a sky thick with stars. Inside, their family waited, loud and chaotic and perfect. This was their legacy, their forever. A cowboy and a lost girl who found each other on an empty prairie and built a love that would echo through generations. Years later, when Cole and Zara were both in their 70s, they would still take walks to that rise on clear evenings. Their children managed the ranch now. Their grandchildren were having children of their own. But some things never changed. The love between them, the gratitude for each other, the knowledge that finding each other had been the pivotal moment of both their lives. When Cole passed away peacefully in his sleep at the age of 82, in the winter of 1928, Zara was beside him. They had been married for 55 years, had built a life together that touched dozens of other lives, had loved each other every single day. At his funeral, Zara spoke briefly, her voice still strong despite her grief. "Cole saved my life twice," she said. "Once when he found me dying on the prairie, and again every day after by loving me, by being my partner, by building a beautiful life with me. I was lost and he guided me home. Not just to a place, but to myself, to love, to purpose, to everything that matters." Zara lived 3 more years, dying peacefully at 80 in 1931, surrounded by her children and grandchildren. Her last words were, "I see him. Cole is waiting for me." They were buried side by side on their ranch, overlooking the prairie that had brought them together. Their gravestone was simple, bearing their names and dates, with one additional line that summed up everything they had been to each other. He found her lost on the prairie. She found him home. Their descendants continued to work the land, generation after generation, keeping the ranch in the family. They told and retold the story of how it all began, of a lost girl from Boston and a cowboy who happened to be in the right place at the right time. It became family legend, the kind of story that shaped identity and reminded everyone where they came from. The house Cole built still stood decades later, weathered but sturdy. The rise where they had stood so many evenings watching sunsets became known as Cole and Zara's Point, a place where family gathered for important moments and quiet reflection. Their love story became the foundation everything else was built on. 5 children who grew into capable, kind adults. Dozens of grandchildren and great-grandchildren. A ranch that prospered through depressions and wars and changing times. A community that valued education and hard work and treating people right, values that Cole and Zara had exemplified. But more than all of that, they had shown everyone who knew them what real love looked like. Not the easy, uncomplicated romance of stories, but the deep, lasting kind that chose to stay even when things got hard. The kind that grew stronger with time, that weathered every storm, that never gave up. On that June day in 1873, when Cole Lawson found Zara Hollis stumbling through the prairie grass, neither of them could have imagined the life they would build together. But from that moment forward, they were no longer 2 separate people with separate paths. They were partners, teammates, soulmates. He had found her lost on the prairie. He had guided her home. and in doing so they had both found everything they ever needed: each other.